Recording in progress.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And for the video, before we begin the roll call, we will limit to, just as practice, we will limit our member comments to 3 minutes. We do have a packed agenda to flow along, and to give Jackie some time, we will make sure that we adhere to these 3 minutes on each agenda item, action, or consent. All right, Jackie, you can do roll call.
Thank you. Member Byrne? Member Keeshan? Member Foster? Member Lannis?
Present.
Member Olson?
Present.
Member Price?
Present.
Member Greenblatt?
Present, but I'm an alternate.
No worries. Thank you. Member LeBau?
Present.
Thank you. Member Weeks? Member Wilson?
Present.
Vice Chair Sarmiento?
Here.
Chair Evans?
Present.
Thank you. Okay, we have all members present. We do have quorum, except for we do have members Byrne absent, member Keeshan, Foster, and Weeks. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Jackie. Moving forward, is there anyone in our public comment that is wishing to speak that is not part of this agenda? If so, please submit a speaker card, raise your hand virtually, and I will call upon you. Jackie, do we have any written or remote public comment?
I did not receive any written, and there are no remote public comments.
Thank you so very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent summary of the items of March 23rd and May 18th. Are there any changes to the comments in the committee? If there are no changes, then we just need a motion.
I'd move to accept the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Jackie, we can conduct roll call, please.
Member Byrne? Member Keeshan? Member Foster? Member Lannis?
Yep.
Member Olson?
Yes.
Member Price?
Yes.
Member Greenblatt?
Abstain.
Member LeBau?
Yes.
Member Weeks? Member Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sarmiento?
Yes.
Chair Evans?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Member Greenblatt abstaining and members Byrne, Keeshan, Foster, and Weeks absent.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That concludes our consent calendar. Moving to the next agenda item, which is the state level legislative update by Lindy. Is Lindy present at the moment?
She has just arrived.
Hi,
One moment,
Lindy.
please.
Thank you so much. And you have the floor, Lindy. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Hello, Chair Evans. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here for the request of the committee to share a little bit about current legislation that relates to e-bikes. These are all active bills. This has been a fairly active issue at the legislature this year and last year, so we're definitely seeing more and more interest and more bills come up with this kind of main topic area. Not everything goes through. There's definitely been a few bills that we've seen die fairly early, but generally that is just kind of showing an interest in the topic and issue itself, and tends to mean, or is an early indicator, that we will continue to see those same general ideas or policy issue that's trying to be sort of addressed continue to come up in later years. So even if an issue itself doesn't move forward, the general feeling that this needs to be addressed tends to stick around, and we do tend to continue to see bills meaning to or looking to address the same policy issue continue to be reintroduced. So we anticipate seeing those next year. For this year, we have 5 bills that I thought would be of interest to all of you. Hopefully you've glanced at those in your packet. I will not go into each one too in-depthly, but as an overview, AB 1569 is a Davies bill, Davy being the author. It is an assembly bill, meaning that it started in the assembly and has been able to move over to the other house, currently being held in Senate Transportation. The bill requires the State Department of Education, consulting with the Highway Patrol, to create and standardize electric vehicle safety and training programs for students grades 7 through 12. And the date that would need to be implemented is March of 2028. This is of particular interest to CCTA, as we do have a Street Smarts program that is really focused on educating both this group and younger students about bicycle and pedestrian safety and in general street safety. So we're very interested in what this is going to look like and mean. It would definitely be something we might be able to look to the Department of Education, both here at the county and at school districts, to say, hey, we already provide some of this, how can we partner? But it also means that there might be stricter or more specific curriculum, which would be new for us. So definitely watching that one closely. AB 1614 is a Dixon bill, also an assembly bill, started in the assembly, has moved over to the Senate Trans Committee. The California Bicycle Transportation Act defines 4 types of bikeway to promote bicycle travel. Current law mandates that anyone riding a bicycle, including electric bicycles, on a highway must use a permanent seat unless the bike was designed otherwise. So this would extend these seating requirements to Class 1 bikeways. AB 2346 or 2346 is a Wilson bill. So this is coming from a local legislator, Lori Wilson, who does represent a small part of Contra Costa County. It is also an assembly bill that is now in Senate Transportation. And this would have to do with basically disclosures from the manufacturer and bike sellers, and there would be fines associated with those disclosures. As of January 1st, 2029, all Class 1 and 2 e-bikes sold or offered for sale must have a speedometer. So this is something you often will find on Class 3 and on some Class 1 and 2s as well, but this would require that they all have it. It would also require written description of e-bike laws be provided and packaging and sellers to provide specific disclosures at or before sale. So, from my understanding, this has seen pretty broad support. If I was to predict, I would think this would likely move forward, but obviously does still have to pass on the floor. AB 2595 or 2595, also an assembly bill that is in Senate Transportation, is a Pappen bill, and this is specific to San Mateo, which is why I put it in blue. I thought it might be of interest to all of you that this is not something that would apply to everyone widely, but oftentimes these sorts of pilots do start as pilots and then eventually become something that is introduced statewide, so helpful to keep your eye on. This would be about the classification of who can use electric bikes. In San Mateo County only, I believe it would require you to be 12 years or older. Yeah, children under 12 from operating any Class 1 or Class 2 electric bikes. And as you can see, the initial violation would be a warning, but there would eventually be an imposed fine, though that imposed fine would be fairly low. As I understand it, this is more about trying to provide education at this point than it really is about penalizing folks. Being said, I do think there is some debate happening around this bill and the question of whether or not e-bikes are safe or not safe for folks under 12. The last one is our only Senate bill, SB 1167. It is in Assembly Transportation, so made its way through the Senate and is back over in the Assembly. It is a Blake Spear Beer bill. This one's a little bit longer. Basically, California law defines an electric vehicle as one with fully operable pedals and electric motor limited to 750 watts and breaks electric bikes into 3 classes with different rules. And this bill would sort of differentiate that a little bit further and would update certain internal combustion motorcycles as classified clearly differently. And that's something that there's been a lot of discussion around, right? I'm sure you're all very familiar of like what is an e-moto versus what is an e-bike and how do we and jurisdiction sort of address that. So those are the 5 bills I just wanted to share with you all and bring to your attention. Happy to share with Colin once the session is over which of these were passed and signed by the governor so that you all would be aware of laws that are likely going into effect. Though as you can see from the summary here, many of them will not go into effect right away and instead will come online at different dates, 2028, 2029, etc. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and join you all and for your interest and passion in this issue. I definitely know it's something CCTA feels strongly about. As I'm sure Colin and Matt have shared with you, we're working a lot on micromobility, and actually my department, the Department of External Affairs, is looking to support jurisdictions from a communication standpoint and actually hopes to create a communications toolkit around e-bikes that all cities can use. Right now, they're all sort of creating their own materials. Different sheriff's departments and police departments are sort of taking different messaging, and we thought that creating something countywide could be really helpful and take some of that burden off of our local jurisdictions. So we hope to do so, and I look forward to sharing that with all of you as it's in development. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the swift and precise. All right, do we have any, Jackie, do we have any public comments for this item?
There are no public comments for this item.
All right, awesome. So we are, absolutely.
Ask a question. So this last bill clearly defines what e-bikes are. So by implication, it's saying that e-motos are not e-bikes. So is there anything at the state legislature that's actually, being more specific about what e-motos are and the licensing requirement, and the age requirements and all that?
I think it's important to be open that I'm not privy to all the conversations that might be happening within certain caucuses around those issues. I know as we have visited with our local delegation, it's definitely something that comes up, just general need for more clarity around both e-bikes and e-motos. Again, I think e-bikes being addressed here. That being said, the ability to treat an e-moto as an electric vehicle similar to a moped, I think has generally been clarified. There may be some interest in further laws to do so. I'm not familiar with any off the top of my head, and I didn't see any introduced this year, but it's certainly something we could see in the future. And I'm happy to do some further research about exactly how they're categorizing them as they're prosecuting related to this, if it would be of interest.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for comment. Okay, Member Foster.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It kind of really reminds us that, public feedback is very important, that it can shape state law, and this helps guide local municipalities to shape their own laws.
Thank you for your comment. Member Foster, do we have any more comment regarding Lindy's?
I had a question. I'm very thankful to hear about communications being planned. It's very needed. It's the big elephant in the room, and some jurisdictions may want to take a certain direction, some others another direction. Some uniformity hopefully comes as soon as possible, preferably from the authority. Timeline for that?
So we hope to do 2 roundtables in September to really gather initial feedback. We want to be cognizant, to your point, that folks have done a lot of work in this space in some jurisdictions and feel quite strongly about the messaging that they want to send. And so we want to try to find a way to create something that will really be utilized in all jurisdictions. And that means first sort of listening and understanding what folks have done thus far, what they feel like has worked really well, and how we can hopefully build with them, as opposed to saying, this is what you should do, and there could become resistance to that. So our hope is to do that in September, and then through the fall and early winter, really develop the toolkit, ideally for release in late winter, early spring.
Okay. Just an addition, and it might not be possible. It sounds like it's not the timeline, but a decision-making point is school year start. There's a lot of information, and sometimes, many times, misinformation coming from official agencies and bodies to parents and to students. It's a very important timing to hit that right before the decision happens of purchasing the device, maybe a device that the parent doesn't know is providing to a kid that maybe not something that they wanted, but it's available, readily available, and they get it, and then they find out later that they shouldn't have. So kind of keeping an eye on that timeline, please, if possible. And then before that comes out, if there's anything that could be sent to police departments and other agencies and jurisdictions on anything that could be consensus beforehand, that would be, I think, very helpful too.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely, the roundtable listening session will include, or at least we were hoping to include, as many of our police and law enforcement agencies within the county, CHP included, because they have done a lot to try to address this, but with sort of mixed messaging. And so we do hope to include them to understand kind of where that perspective is and how we can best support them. That being said, I do want to say 511CCTA, who does have very good contact with our school districts, has been creating some early materials and trying to share as much information as possible, both with parents and school districts. So they will also be part of this roundtable to hopefully share some of what they've seen as successful thus far.
Okay, seeing we have no more member comments, thank you so much, Lindy. We will now move to our agenda item 4B, which is also an action item, actually. It's a review of the draft final update of the bylaws for the CBPAC. And I do want to reiterate that this has been circulating for a while, and so all members had a chance to send in their comments and concerns, and now we are putting this in motion in September 2026. And so with that, we will now take any comments. We'll go to Colin first, and then we'll take member comments or concerns. If you do have a comment before Colin begins, you can please.
Well, sorry, I'm first time before you guys today, but when I was reviewing the document, I noticed that, there's term limits essentially that are, and I should say I coordinated this comment with Corey Riley, your regular representative here, but there's term limits now, and I'm wondering if that could be differentiated between staff and other representatives, because like some agencies aren't going to have, they don't have staff turnover, or they don't have the depth of staff to provide different representation. And I was wondering if there could be, a differentiation between staff members and who are appointed to the committee and just other members of the public.
So to clarify your question, you're asking whether the appointees of different counties or the district, the term limits to them versus the ones for staff would be different, or there's a differentiation, a breakdown between the two?
I'd say not having them apply to staff members.
Okay, I think Jackie would suggest this and write down your comment. I do apologize because you just got here today, but this has been circulating for a while, and the members have had a chance to kind of review the bylaws, and obviously you turned in your questions. So this is something we can review for the next round of bylaw suggestions and concerns. And through Jackie, I'm going to defer back to the staff. Would that be next year, I'm assuming?
Well, so once we implement these, I'm not sure when we plan to bring them back, but we're hoping to be able to apply this for quite some time until needed moving forward, correct? Which would mean we would need to get it approved today in order to take it in September.
She's referring to for approval by the board. Yeah, we don't have a set schedule for when we bring bylaws back. It's generally when it's determined that there's a need. And I don't want to steal Colin's thunder because this is his item, but I think for that particular change in the bylaws regarding membership and membership terms, because there is the exception that's allowed that this body gets to weigh in on allowing folks to serve more than 3 consecutive terms, we do think there is the opportunity for staff to be able to serve longer than that. So, yeah, I think the proposal is to move forward with the changes as recommended, but I'll let Colin walk you through the rest of the changes.
Sounds good. And just to summarize the changes and track changes that you see in the packet, there's just a few. And if you recall, last time we kind of extended the period for input and received a few additional pieces of input that resulted in these track changes. So this is the proposal before you is, for example, clarifying the role of the project sponsor versus the transit agency review. And excuse me, then the terms of office, clarifying that, as Matt mentioned, there is an opportunity to kind of have the clock starting if the authority board were to approve it in September, starting then, so staff members wouldn't have to, and the appointing bodies wouldn't be addressing this for several years if this were to be adopted and recommended for approval today. And then the third change is a minor one, just clarifying committee members. So, so this item has been before you for almost a year, since September, and hoping to advance this so we can focus on some other agenda items.
Thank you, Colin. I will make a motion to adopt the bylaws.
Make a point that there is, in the bylaws, the Article 10 does allow for amendments. So seems like we could adopt the bylaws and then amend it in the future. So.
Yes, that I think for clarity, that is what Jackie's saying. You can submit your suggestions as any, and then once the amendments can be brought back at any time, because we do have a packed agenda on the next one for the next 2 meetings. I'm assuming, like I stated earlier, that would be next year, for consideration. So to take in consideration of your concerns. Okay, we just need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Jackie, we do have a motion. You can call roll.
Member Byrne? Member Keeshan? Member Foster? Okay, thanks. Member Lanes?
Abstain.
Member Olson?
Yes.
Member Price?
Yes.
Member Greenblatt?
Yes.
Member LeBeau?
Yes.
Member Weeks? Member Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sarmiento?
Yes.
Chair Evans?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with members Byrne, Keeshan, Weeks absent, and member Lannis abstaining.
Thank you so much, Jackie. We're now moved to the next item, which is 4C. This is the update on the 2026 coordinated call and projects of One Bay Grant Cycle 4 and the Measure J Transportation of Livable Communities and Pedestrian Bicycle and Trail Facilities in Cycle 3 funding programs presented by Matt. Matt, thank you so much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and that was quite a mouthful there. Thank you for getting all that out so I don't have to. Thank you, Jackie. Good morning, Chair Evans and CBPAC members. Matt Kelly, Director of Planning here. As the Chair mentioned, we are talking about the coordinated call for projects that does cover a multitude of funding programs. However, today we are here to focus on the Pedestrian Bicycle and Trail Facilities, or PBTF, Cycle 3. This is Program 13 of Measure J, and 1.5% of the measure does go to this fund source. That results in about $8.1 million being available for programming during this coordinated call for projects. So if you guys remember from our last meeting, we kind of discussed the process for the call for projects. It is currently open right now. It was open as of June 23rd. It will close on August 17th. So at that point, in about 2.5 weeks, actually 3 weeks from today, all applications will be due here to the authority. At that point, we will do an initial screening, and we also have a screening committee that will bless that screening. And what the screening will do is direct project applications to the most appropriate funding source or the best fit. So projects that come through that are named in our countywide bicycle and pedestrian plan, that's kind of the basic eligibility for projects funded by PBTF. So we will be looking at projects that are named in our bike ped plan and that meet the criteria, and direct those towards this committee and the scoring subcommittee that you all established last month. I don't know if I need to name the members. I think they're all here today. Oh, no, Brian is not here. Anyway, you all have named members. There's 4 of you representing the 4 subregions. And the job of that committee will be taking those applications that come to you. Presumably there will be an ask larger of the $1.859 million. So you'll be asked to submit a list of 120% of that amount. So we have some flexibility, and that would be about $9.7 million. We don't know what the applications will look like yet, so we can't say how much, how many applications or what the ask of the dollar amount will be. We will know that after August 17th, and after that screening committee does its work for the last 2 weeks of August. So starting early September, we will know what projects will be coming to this group. And so probably ahead of your September meeting, we will be convening the subcommittee, those 4 members, to start their scoring process. We don't imagine that we will be done. We'll probably have a couple of meetings by that scoring subcommittee. We figured they could come back to this group in September with kind of a status update on where they're at with the scoring of the applications. But anyway, what we wanted to talk to you about today was that scoring process and the role for this group. What we'd like to talk to you about today is the weighting of the scores. There are 12 criteria that have been adopted as part of the coordinated call for projects. So all projects that come in will be scored according to these 12 criteria. But what we allow for the different programs is for them to adjust the weights of the scores. So if you go to your packet, you'll see on the second page of the attachment for this item, you'll see the 12 criteria. Each criterion does have more detail than what you're seeing in that summary list that's available starting on page 3. There are several items in each criterion for you to consider. But what we'd like you to do today is really look at those maximum points for each of the 12 criterion and determine whether you think that's appropriate for the types of projects that, that PBTF should be funding. There's, certain, most of this criteria, well, the scoring you see there right now is what's been set up for the OBAG projects, the more regionally competitive projects that will be funded with federal dollars. So you can take any of those criteria and adjust the weighting. What we are recommending is that you don't zero any of these categories out, that they all at least have a score of 1. The scores do need to add up to 75. Colin is standing by with a spreadsheet that he can type in suggestions for changes in the maximum points, and he'll get a new total, so we can you can throw out numbers and he can plug that into the table to make sure we're adding up to the total. And that 70 points seems like an odd number, but we've kept that consistent across the categories because for our projects that are going through MTC, the OBAG projects, they have a maximum score of 75. So we decided just to make it a maximum of 75 across OBAG, across TLC, and across PBTF. So it's really just about adjusting those scoring weights and maintaining the 75 total. If you think there's kind of criterion that should be combined, we're asking that you not combine them. You can maybe group them, but still keep each criterion's scoring discrete. I think that's about all we have to for guidance today. We really just wanted to open up the conversation. You may feel like the scoring that's been established for OBAG 4 is appropriate for PBTF, but that's what we want you guys to discuss today. And we're certainly, Colin and I are here to provide any feedback you may need on, if you have any questions on any of these. Our only other guidance, and that's when it gets to the point of scoring, is that subcommittee members should avoid scoring applications either submitted by a sponsor that they represent, in terms of folks who are, on this body representing a city, or that that are a body that's partnering with a project sponsor, say a advocacy group that's represented here who's working with a project sponsor. So that's really the only guidance we have today. I just would open it back up to the group for your discussion on the scoring, the weights of the scoring criteria, and then any questions you may have for Colin or myself about the scoring process and what happens from here. But that's all I have today, and I can certainly take any questions.
Thank you so much, Matt. Do we have any committee members that do have a comment or concern?
I'll put this up on the board so you guys have something to look at.
Thank you so much. Member Stephen, were you? in the
Yeah,
queue? Thank
I'm
you.
just trying to get clear about, so right now, OBAG suggests, for instance, for Vision Zero safety and injury prevention, 20 maximum points, okay. And so we're kind of being asked whether or not that seems like a reasonable thing, or we would suggest something different. So then there's all the criterion listed here, and there's just for that one item, there's a lot of criterion here to consider. So it's a lot to think about. So those criterion, are those criterion just things we should be considering simply when we are thinking about that maximum points? Or are we supposed to be scoring those individual criterion?
Yeah, I would, considerations is, for the evaluators is the best way I would put it. So they're not scoring everything in there, but when they are scoring as a group, they have kind of, those are items they can discuss in terms of fine tuning their scores.
Food for thought.
Food for thought, yeah.
Right, okay. Okay.
And I should give a little bit of background. These scores were updated for this current call for projects based on feedback we had received over the years, including from this committee, including from our Vision Zero working group, among others. But that criterion number one, that's all about safety and injury prevention, that used to be, I think, 12 was the maximum score for the previous OBAG cycle, and it increased to 20 based on the feedback we received.
And the other piece of background on this too is that the majority of these scoring criteria are straight from the adopted countywide bicycle and pedestrian plan. Mm-hmm. So these are required to be part of the scoring criteria for Measure J. And if it helps, I don't know if Jackie can allow me to share a screen type of thing, but I do have the expenditure plan pulled up if people want to hear just a brief overview of PBTF.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Jackie, if you can share, please. Thank you.
Colin, is it something you could read?
Yeah, I'll just read it. It's pretty short. So again, from the expenditure plan last updated in 2011, so originating with the 2004 Measure J, so through 2034. So pedestrian, bicycle, and trail facilities, including regional trails, are an important component of the regional transportation system. 2/3 of the funds are to complete projects in the countywide bike and ped plan. So, and then the 1/3 of the funds separate from that are allocated as a set aside share annually to the park district for the development and rehabilitation of paved regional trails. So that's what gets reviewed on an annual basis and rotates between the 4 subregions, among the 4 subregions. But yeah, the main requirement is that it's already in the countywide bike and ped plan and the associated project list, Appendix D.
And these, by trail, how are we defining a trail? I mean, is it anything, a path for bicycles, or is mostly like Class 1 stuff that goes through parks? And
yeah, it's detailed in the bicycle and pedestrian plan itself. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Okay, do we have any more comment on our scoring sheet? No. Okay, do we have, okay. Vice Chair Sorrento.
All right, thank you. I do have at least one comment here, one question about for criterion number 4 for safe systems approach bundled projects. There is a section here about fiber optics broadband communications infrastructure. So I kind of just asking for more, curious about more information about that item and like its inclusion in in this as a part of this criteria?
I think it was looking at the bundling, so in multiple ways. So one being Vision Zero and the safe system approach across jurisdictional boundaries, but also in terms of different reasons, objectives for different projects. So including utilities like broadband as an example, but also water, sewer, and other issues that can be addressed in a holistic way, you know, when a street is ripped up kind of thing. It's aiming for efficiencies.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I think that concludes all of our questions. Do we have any public comment, Jackie?
No public comment.
Okay, wonderful.
In terms of direction for staff, is there no recommended changes to the scoring?
I don't see any, and I took a look. For me personally, committee members, were you able to take a look at the scoring or any issues or concerns?
We're happy to take comments offline, but we do want to have kind of a decided set upon score to present to the scoring committee when they convene.
Okay. Thank you. I took note. Well, thank you, Matt. We will now move to our 4D, review of the complete streets checklist and compliance of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, resolution number 4493, introduced by Hasham and presented by Hasham and Carl from Contra Costa County. And is Hasham here? He is. Thank you.
So good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Hisham Noemi. I'm the Director of Programming at CCTA. I'm being joined today by Carl Rohner from Contra Costa County, who is the sponsor of this important project, as well as Catherine Jin, and she's with Mark Thomas. She's the project designer. You may ask why CCTA is involved in this project. Well, we were listed in the Regional Measure 3 legislation as the project sponsor. So we are involved to help the county get the Regional Measure 3 funds allocated to the project. As part of that, any action you request, any funding action you request from MTC, they require your project to go through the complete street checklist. And that's why we're here today. We want to present you the project as well as go over our responses in the complete street checklist. I just want to note that we did ask for an exemption. And the reason for that is because of the, as you will see, the rural setting of this project. It's in Far East County, and Carl Rohner will go over more details about that. The project has been long awaited. There has been a lot of cross-median collisions. Many of them made the news. So what this project will do is install a median, a solid concrete median, to prevent such collisions. We will not be adding any capacity as part of this project, and there will be shoulders along the roadway in case there are occasional pedestrians or bicyclists on that road. So with that, I'll turn it to Carl to present the item, and then Catherine as well.
Thank you, Sean. Catherine's going to go first here. So.
So good morning, everybody. We're going to be talking about the Vasco Road project. So just a quick overview. This is in eastern Contra Costa County. It is a high-speed commuter road that connects Livermore to the south to Brentwood to the north. This is actually going to be an extension of the Phase 1 project. So here, the project is here on the southern limits, and like I said, it's an extension of the Phase 1 project, and then it goes up to here to the northern limits. The main roadway features are widening the roadway to the east. We're going to be incorporating a concrete median barrier for vehicular safety, and then we're also going to be widening the Brushy Creek Bridge with increased barrier heights. Some of the environmental benefits of this project are stormwater treatment and runoff measures by incorporating bioswales with bioretention. We're also incorporating some trash capture devices as well to help with the trash that accommodate or that happens along the roadway. And then we also have some wildlife crossings that were part of the East Contra Costa County Conservation Habitat Conservation Plan. As you can see, this is the rural setting of the project. It's, what's more, it's a high-speed commuter road. The main goal of the project is for vehicular safety, and because there's a high rate of head-on collisions. Within the project limits, there's actually no public access points on the neighboring land. It's mainly privately owned cattle grazing land or land owned by East Bay Regional Parks District, but it's privately controlled land. We are going to be widening the roadway to the east, and we are having shoulder widths ranging from 6 to 10 feet. Right here you can see the typical roadway section. We're going to have the concrete median barrier, and there's 2 lanes in one direction, 1 lane in the other direction. And this shows the bioswale that will be along the edge of the roadway. And then this is the widening of the bridge. We are going to be widening to the east once more. We're going to have an increased barrier height, and then we're actually going to retrofit with tubular bicycle railing on the existing roadway or existing bridge side. A quick history of the project. This project was actually fully designed and approved back in 2012, but however, the project didn't have funds for construction, so it was shelved. We were able to get funding back in 2025, and this project was picked back up. The design was reevaluated and brought to current standards, Caltrans standards and county standards, and then also other environmental standards that we had to comply with. We actually received approvals with the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors. We have approval with the Conservancy, and we're in the process of finalizing the LSAA with the CDFW. We also have Regional Water Quality Control Board permits as well. So some of the design features, we, as you can see with the trash along here, we are complying with Contra Costa County drainage standards. We are also handling stormwater treatment as well with the Contra Costa County Clean Water Program guidebook. And we're also doing hydromodification mitigation, which means that all the stormwater flows post-project will actually match pre-project flows. And then we're also doing the trash management as well. So the bioswales are going to be located as roadside swales for stormwater treatment at these locations noted. Here's one at the northern limit, here's one here, and then a long swale over here. And this is the treated roadway as well. And we are incorporating maintenance vehicle pullouts for maintaining the project long-term. We're also adding some trash capture devices to help with the trash mitigation, as you can see from the pictures before. We're also adding a lot of gates to access for maintenance. Since this roadway is a barrier to wildlife movement, we are actually incorporating some wildlife crossings throughout the project to comply with the Habitat Conservation Plan. And the wildlife crossings are the pink ones shown here. And then I'm going to actually pass it over to Carl to talk about the schedule.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Our schedule has actually gone very much on track. We have just completed 100% plans, and we're prepping for taking it out to bid. Our right-of-way has all been already obtained for this project, and we're expecting to start construction this fall, probably September, depending on how bids go. Cost and funding. So right now we have $2.1 million coming from ECRFA, which is the East Contra Costa Regional Funding and Finance Authority. It's a developer-funded program to provide infrastructure for East County. Another final design of $2.3 million from ECRFA. Right-of-way is completed at $1 million. It's being paid for by ECRFA. And then the actual construction, CCTA's RM3 program is providing $15 million, which was originally promised back in 2012. So it's been on the plate for a long time. We're finally getting to spend it. We also have $4.8 million of local partnership program formula, which is a SB1 funding funded by sales tax. It'll be contributing. And then in the construction, ECRFA will be again contributing $14.6 million for a total of $40 million. This is a big project for the county. So just kind of going through our complete streets checklist, Vasco Road, the project area is not part of the active transportation network. We have no high incidence of bicycle or pedestrian involved crashes on the road, lots of vehicles. We have no mobility hubs, transit service, or transit stops in the project area. And it's no impact active transportation or transit in an equity priority community. The project will integrate green infrastructure, and which is as well as trash capture. Do we have any questions?
Just out of curiosity, what are the wildlife crossings? What does that look like? What are the designs for those?
They're typically like box culverts, square box culverts, and actually we have a number of existing wildlife crossings on the road, and they're used pretty frequently by wildlife. We've actually got some excellent pictures when they put cameras in them. So heavily used, very important, and it's by all species. We have tiger salamanders, badgers, coyotes, red-legged frogs even hopping through these corridors. So it's been a successful program, and part of the reason we're adding more is just because it has been so good.
So, well, quick question, and I got a couple questions, but why is it there's one lane in one direction, 2 lanes in the other direction?
Well, a lot has to do with the traffic and the current configuration of it. And just we're actually, I'm not really, it's a truck clamping line. Thank you. It's the hill.
Oh, I see. So just in those spots where there's truck climbing, that's what, oh, I see. And so is there a lot of change during the course of a day in terms of how much traffic? I mean, is there a lot of people in Brentwood who are commuting to Livermore and back, and is that where the bulk of the travel is? Oh, I see.
Yeah, and it does get a lot of truck use. We have a lot of commuters. I've actually been doing a parallel to this, a safety program with the communities out there, and it's very strong on how much demand there is for improvements to the roadway.
Okay, and it's what, mostly the concrete barriers, what, just kind of Jersey walls that are being placed in?
They're permanent rails. The Jersey barriers are temporary. These are permanent cast-in-place concrete rails. So it's to keep cars from crossing over in the opposite direction, which has been an ongoing problem. While this is not our worst road in the county, accidents on it are rather dramatic and get people's attention.
So I would imagine there's always bicyclists who want to take on the challenge of going 25 miles on a road like this. But have you actually seen numbers out there, or is it a rare breed who goes out and does this?
I would say it's a rare breed, but I don't want to speak for the cyclists myself. I am aware of one person that has done it. We do not prohibit bicycles on the road.
Thank you, Member Stephen. We do have a couple more. We're going to go to Foster, then Wilson, then Sarmiento.
Thank you, Chair. You know, those, the properties or the open spaces, are they all private? And what were the historical use? Were they grazelands?
They were grazed originally. They're not all private. Some of it is owned by East Bay Park District. We also have a lot of cultural facilities on these things, so we don't want to have them open to the general public. It's kind of a mixture there, and almost all of the area alongside the road is part of the Habitat Conservation Plan, and so it's important that we kind of maintain its wildness, if you will, for the populations that are there.
Well, you're saying wildness, so if it wasn't, I mean, probably the previous use is grazeland, so wildness means, was it chaparral, or what kind of a biological or geological appearance was it before it was grazeland? Was it supposed to have a high canopy, or just kind of I call
it was fairly similar to what it is, but I also understand the way these county environments have changed. It's mostly that we have a lot of non-native, highly combustible grasses, typically, and that have replaced the normal cover of bunch grass and wildflowers in the area. So that, I mean, I'm kind of, again, I'm not a biologist, but that's kind of my general knowledge of the area. I think overall it was always very light as far as the cover from trees in the area. You know, it was not logged off per se or anything like that. It's just, it's a very dry, arid area, and it doesn't sustain a high level of growth.
Follow-up and final question. So it's fair to say, probably without any biologist or anthropologist issue, we don't know if this used to be chaparral or forest, or it had more canopy than it did before it was grazeland. So
I don't really know yet.
Mm-hmm.
There is chaparral out there, as far as we.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lanes.
Thank you. It's not prohibited to bike around there. Have there been considerations to encourage active transportation possibilities in the area?
We do not encourage active transportation in this area. It is a high-speed roadway.
Thank you, Member Lanes. And do we have any more questions for the members?
I was just curious about the canopy because, you know, I read somewhere that the more canopy just slows people down. So that's kind of what I was kind of relating to, not wanting access to it. It's more of how canopy slows the driving.
Again, I'm not a biologist. I would probably refer you to my colleague in DCD, Abby Fateman, who is the manager of the HCP, and she can probably talk to you a little bit more about the natural environment out there. They are, again, it's as far as habitat in this county is concerned, this is some of the better habitat that we have.
Just
And that actually, thank you, Catherine noted, we really don't have any water sources in the area. It's pretty arid.
Just a little follow-up. The widening of the road, it wouldn't be suggested to do any active transportation or encourage much there directly, but what about a separated path? Is that something that could at all ever be considered?
Yeah, our topography kind of doesn't allow it, and really our right-of-way for our roadway doesn't allow us enough room to do that. So we'd have to acquire right-of-way from East Bay Parks or the ranchers and also pay conservancy fees as well.
Do we have any other members for the comment? And then I will comment on the one question I do have. You stated earlier for your bidding transition to happen soon, but you're beginning construction on September of this year. Will that intervene with your construction process as far as your bidding, or what does your bidding look like for the next month? Because September is right around the corner.
Start date will be in November. And
So the
we're
start date
starting
will
bidding.
be-
I'm thinking broadly. We're starting, it goes to construction, as we say in our department, when they do the bid.
Understood. Okay. So the bidding process will start in November.
In September.
In September, and then you will begin in November.
Yes.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, Jackie, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Thank you so much. I do want to extend my gratitude. Thank you so much for this presentation. And if any members, including myself, I do have a few more questions, but we do have to move on, and I'll send those in an email.
Right. Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay, now we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is 4D. This is a review of the completion checklist for the, my apologies, E. Our checklist for the compliant MTC resolution number 4493 presented by Andy. Apologies, Andy, you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Evans. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andy Dillard. I'm a senior engineer here with CCTA. And the item before you is consideration of approval of the complete streets checklist for the Contra Costa Countywide Transit Signal Priority Project. So I will, similar to the last item you heard, I'll go over the project scope, the benefits, the schedule, the cost, and the conformity with the Measure J, I'm sorry, not Measure J, the MTC Complete Streets Checklist. So as background, CCTA has submitted an application for the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program, SB1 funds, to furnish and deploy a cloud-based TSP, or transit signal-based transit signal priority system at approximately 279 intersections throughout the county, including all the subregions of the county, East, Central, West, and Southern Contra Costa. In addition to the cloud-based TSP system, the project would also upgrade traffic signal controllers, as those would need to be upgraded to the latest and greatest in order to operate cloud-based TSP. And it would also provide enhancements to communications infrastructure at those signalized intersections. It would integrate onboard transit vehicle equipment with centralized cloud-based TSP platform, implement centralized hardware. It would also provide upgrades to any onboard equipment such as routers that would be needed on the buses. It also, the cloud-based system would be a 10-year license, so it would basically essentially provide this long-term operations and maintenance of the cloud-based system with this 10-year licensing software ask. And then ultimately, the TSP program, it would improve transit reliability, reduce corridor level travel delays, and it will strengthen our regional connectivity across multiple jurisdictions. So in total, this project, it's a $14 million project. Again, we're asking for transit or seeking transit and intercity rail program from Cycle 8 funds. There is no match required for the TIRSIP funds. We expect to hear from CalSTA on the application award in mid-September. This project aligns directly with the TIRSIP program objectives in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and it expands and improves transit service and promotes increased ridership. So this is, I'm going to show you a series of maps here. These are all the proposed locations are included in the project. There's approximately 279 intersections throughout the county here. There's a few map overlays here. This is just the basic project locations. This map shows the overlay of the transit-oriented communities and the priority development areas overlays throughout the county. This is an overlay of the disadvantaged communities throughout Contra Costa and how this TSP will benefit those communities. And then lastly, similar, this is a overlay of low-income communities and disadvantaged communities throughout Contra Costa in relation to the project intersections. So benefits of the project, again, 279 intersections. It would benefit all four of the primary operators throughout Contra Costa County. Of course, we have AC Transit, County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, and WestCat. In total, it would benefit 79 transit routes. So a little bit about the actual benefits. So as you can see here, talked about this a little bit, but TSP will provide improved schedule adherence, reduce passenger delay. It improves transit competitiveness versus driving, so essentially encouraging transit use. Of course, reduces transit running time variabilities, improves transfer reliabilities, not only at bus stops, but at future and existing and future mobility hubs. Of course, promotes those reduced greenhouse gas emissions and reduced stop and go traffic conditions, improves efficiencies, regional transit coordination, not only with our bus providers, but with rail as well. And of course, also improves multimodal connectivity and regional mobility. So as far as prioritization for the grant application, there were multiple factors considered. We talked about a little bit of equity considerations with those maps I showed previously, but also we took a look at transit reliability challenges, corridor delay conditions, passenger activity, of course that regional connectivity importance, and then we looked a little bit at operational bottlenecks as well as opportunities to improve multimodal mobility throughout the county. So actual impacts, measurable impacts, again, with TSP in general, but specifically with this project. We talked about the greenhouse gas emissions, potentially to improve transit service and reliability. Some of the more key metrics, there are 180 intersections of the 279 that are within a half mile of disadvantaged communities. You can see some of the metrics here in the middle band here of this slide. It would potentially reduce 60% reduction in passenger delay for those routes, 6 minutes per trip saved. That's an average, and other key metrics as well. So the cost, a little bit more of the cost here. So in total, again, it's $14.3 million. About 1.2 million of that would be towards PS&E, or plan specifications and estimates. Another 12 million would be for construction, and about 1.4 million for construction management. And again, the construction piece of this, it's not only the cloud-based TSP software and licensing, but it's upgrading the hardware necessary on the buses, as well as the traffic signal infrastructure as well. And then a key component of construction also in any ITS element project, which the TSP project is systems integration and testing of the system before it goes into operation. Here's a quick look at the schedule. As I mentioned, we're expecting the award announcement on September 18th. Pending award, we would start to enter into funding and partner agreements, not only with our transit operators, but our local agencies as well, because those aforementioned traffic signal improvements would be necessary. We'd start environmental in early 27, construction in 28, and would be operational targeting later in 2028. As far as the Complete Streets checklist goes, the proposed TSP corridors, as you saw on the map, they're along active transportation networks, they're along high injury corridors, and they would serve existing and planned mobility hubs. As part of the MTC Complete Streets checklist, the transit priority policy for roadways, that's MTC Resolution 4739, is now part of that Complete Streets checklist process. And of course, this is a transit project, so we also were required to seek input from our transit operators, and that included signing off on what's called the Transit Agency Review Forms, and that acknowledges that they've seen the application in concurrence with it, and if there was any concerns, that they're noted on those review forms, of which there were none. We talked a lot about already the community benefits, benefiting PDAs and TOCs and equity priority communities, as well as our transit priority areas. And this project is in direct alignment with Plan Berea 2050 plus and Transit 2050 plus, and also, of course, our draft 2050 countywide CTP. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, the chair stepped out for a moment, so I'll take over chair duties. Thank you, Andy, for that presentation. And first, I'll turn it over to committee members if they have any questions or comments for Andy for this item. Committee Member Price.
So it's clearly, I listened to Tim Hale's, on the patio thing, he had a whole podcast about this, and it sounded pretty good from what he described. But I'm still not clear as to, because this is a pedestrian bicycle advisory committee, where does micromobility fit into this? I live on San Pablo Avenue, and I'm looking at the maps that you showed, and all the little dots suggest that this is mostly for arterials, big streets, and a lot of these big streets, arterials, are actually, some of them, like much of Treat Boulevard, is more highway than it is urban street. And although, you know, San Pablo Avenue, I think is more street and potentially could pivot into becoming an urban avenue. But it seems like I'm trying to understand, if I'm on my bicycle, right now I know that people don't like to bicycle on San Pablo Avenue. So if there's, you know, detection technology associated with the signals so that I'm perceived on my bicycle, how would that benefit? It seems like for many of these arterials, the benefit will come if it's done in conjunction with a bunch of other changes to the street. So, for instance, if you narrow the travel lanes, if you know, the pedestrian crossings improve, and essentially a lot of car traffic slows down, then I could see certainly this is a big benefit. And as a person who doesn't have a car and I'm on my bicycle a lot, I often find it very frustrating to come up to signals and then suddenly realize it's not detecting me. I have to wait for a car to show up behind me before the light turns green. Or I have to get off my bike and go and push a button. So certainly that would benefit for bicyclists crossing these arterials. So I'm just wondering, how do you understand this is going to benefit micromobility? And I understand the benefit for reducing vehicle emissions from cars and speeding up transit, and that, I think that's a great, but I'm just wondering, what is the benefit for bicycles and pedestrians and other forms of micromobility?
Sure, thanks, Member Price. I appreciate the question. So backing up a little bit, there's several concurrent projects happening at CCTA that I'm sure you're all aware of. One is, of course, the Countywide Smart Signals Project, Phase 1. We're in development of Phase 2. There's several earmark projects happening right now, which are in construction throughout the county. But the reason I mention that is because you're specifically asking about bicycle detection, which is very important and is a very important component of those projects. And the technologies are a little bit different from what we're talking about here, is how that's achieved. Specifically with bike detection, you know, that's achieved with the video detection camera systems that are being deployed as part of those signal projects. This technology, specifically for TSP, it's cloud-based, so it's not reliant upon that video detection. It's just a little bit different. It's a cloud-based detection, or a cloud-based system, essentially. So it's basically talking between the bus and the traffic signal controller. So there's no direct bicycle or pedestrian detection element with this TSP project, but it's part of a suite of larger improvements that are benefiting the whole corridor in general, and that will work together. And I'll also mention that a lot of these intersections, or several of these intersections, are also included in that countywide project, and they're receiving video detection upgrades, which will provide that bicycle detection that you're talking about. There are some newer intersections in this application as well that aren't included in that countywide project because this is heavily just focused on transit corridors. But so hopefully that answers your question, but that video detection system is really the key component of providing that bicycle detection, and that's provided as part of these other complementary signal improvement projects.
Will those two different systems kind of operate in opposition to each other? I mean, it seems like if you got a transit flow priority system that's going to make you know, transit arrivals and departures predictable, but then you have a lot of people who are crossing the path so how does that work so they all kind of work together?
Yeah, another great question. So with transit signal priority, you could either have it on all the time. So no matter what a bus comes, it gives a signal, a message to the signal to turn green. Or you have what's called conditional priority, where there has to be certain parameters met or conditions met before that's granted. So for example, in most cities, they're going to want pedestrian activations and or bicycle and pedestrian activations to supersede transit priority. That's all going to be determined in the O&M agreement, which will ultimately be needed for this project, of which will be served first. But based on my experience, from what I've heard with cities, how they treat TSP, you know, when it is conditional, I mean, ped and bike detection is usually first and foremost before transit signal priority. But they all work together. That's all done in the programming. And it's something that, you know, we'll work with each transit agency and each jurisdiction if we are to get this grant as to how each TSP system will operate in their city.
So if it's cloud-based, does that mean that you can actually target how the system works for a specific, this street might work differently than, San Pablo Avenue might work differently than Treat or Ignacio Valley Road or whatever?
It has the ability to do that. Whether they will or not is to be determined through those O&Ms, but yeah, they have that ability from a technological perspective to operate either on a conditional priority or full-time.
So there could be different settings depending on the street.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Member Price. Do we have any other members for commenting?
Thank you. That was very interesting because it question Q&A, because it made me realize I thought that this was the project that had the phase 1 and the phase 2, you know, the traffic signal priority, maybe it is. So can you compare and contrast how these two projects are different?
Sure. Good question, because it is somewhat confusing with all the parallel projects happening. So the Countywide Smart Signals project, phase 1, we're about to go to construction on, that has TSP in it as well. It doesn't have 279 intersections, but I believe it's, I think it's around 100 it has, 150. I can't remember the final number on that, and that's still TBD, depending on scope and budget. But this is a standalone TSP project that we're talking about right now. It's separate from the Countywide project. So we're just trying to add in more TSP. There is, as I mentioned, there is TSP in phase 1, and we're intending that there will be TSP in phase 2 that would pick up even more intersections than we're seeing here. So in total, between Countywide Smart Signals phase 1 and this project, and I'm sorry, in phase 1, there's actually 200 intersections. Sorry, I forgot about that for a second. So in total, there'd be like 479 intersections implemented with TSP between those two projects, potentially.
So there's no overlap between that phase 1 and this transit?
There is some overlap. So we did include some intersections included in phase 1. In the event we have to cut scope in phase 1, once we open bids. If we're over budget, we may be cutting some cloud-based services. So just hedging on that, we included some of those intersections in this TSP application. So it'd be less than 479. But.
So I'm still trying to understand the difference between the two. So this is primarily focused on transit, and the smart signal one would be transit and vehicles?
Yeah, the smart signals phase 1 is primarily, it's everything in the road. It's vehicles, PEDs, bikes, you know, that aforementioned video detection, and there is a TSP element, although that's not a focus of Countywide, but it is a component of Countywide phase 1.
It's a pretty amazing undertaking, all these signals. It's pretty impressive, and you know, congratulations on doing that. My other question is easier, I think, is how, you know, some of these roadways cross county jurisdictions. So I'm wondering, like in the case of San Pablo Avenue, how is the transit TSP being coordinated with Alameda County and the buses that are operating there?
Yeah, we understand. I mean, Alameda County operates on a different system. So, you know, once we're hopefully awarded this project, you know, we'll be working with them more closely, although just because they are operating on a different system doesn't mean that their buses aren't going to work with this cloud-based system. So it's not to get too technical in the weeds, but for the most part, the routers that are included on the buses within those jurisdictions will operate on this cloud-based system as well.
One more question.
And Member Price, we are pressed for time, so you do have another 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, real quick. So again, looking at the maps, it looks like this transit priority system is targeted mostly to arterials, big streets. And yet, buses don't all go on big streets, and certainly pedestrians and bicyclists don't all go on big streets. So the smart signals in this system, are they, is one kind of like going to be an enhancement of the other, or are they going to operate like there's going to be technologies on certain intersections that are not going to be on other intersections?
So I'm not sure I'm understanding your question, but yeah, it'll all integrate, it'll all operate, it'll all be cohesive. So one thing, maybe this will help, but that we're doing here at CCTA as part of the Smart Signals Phase 1 is we're implementing what's called a center-to-center system. So we're essentially going to have like a small traffic management center here. It's kind of like the ground floor of what we're trying to do. But we'll be able to monitor everything that's going on in the county with this TSP system, whether it's part of Phase 1 Smart Signals or this project or whatever other TSP we implement beyond these two projects. They will all integrate into the existing system. We'll be able to monitor them in real time. We'll be able to also make operational changes too with the system based on policy at the city level and between the transit agencies in those cities. So.
Okay, so maybe the smart signal thing with that addresses the needs of pedestrians and bicyclists. I mean, you're talking about 100 signals to begin with, and then hopefully this is going to expand to a lot more signals that are going to be much more beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, and one important component of this project is upgrading the traffic signal controllers as well. So what we're not capturing in the Countywide project, we're going to be able to do with this project, which is a direct benefit to ped and bike mobility as well.
All right, thank you. Jackie, do we have any public comments? Anyone who's wanting to comment, please raise your hand.
No public comments received.
Okay, thank you so much, Andy. We really appreciate this extensive. If you have any more questions, you do know you can email either before to Andy, okay? All right, moving to our last item for 4F, the update on accessible transportation by Halima.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Halima Barucha. I'm the Programs Manager for the Office of Accessibility. I believe it is my first time presenting to this committee, so it is nice to meet all of you. Our office works on accessible transportation, and so I wanted to make sure that the CBPAC was in the loop on the work that we are doing, especially because we have some overlap as it relates to cycling. So I'm happy to share those updates today. So just a little bit about our Office of Accessibility. We envision and work towards a future where older adults and people with disabilities experience seamless, accessible, and dignified transportation that enables them to live independently in their community and fully participate in their communities. And we do this by coordinating our over 24 transportation providers in this county that do accessible transportation for older adults and people with disabilities. And we also work to make sure that services are easier to find. With 24 providers, you can imagine that it can be a challenge. And so we're actively working on developing tools to make that easier for people to get information. And we also work to identify and address any gaps in mobility needs. Our aging population is increasing in the next few decades, and we are preparing for an increase in demand in these types of services. So understanding what those gaps are and working towards funding them and identifying programs that can address them are part of our priorities. As I mentioned, we have a very robust landscape in this county when it comes to accessible transportation. We have our transportation agencies, and we also have city-run senior programs. So several cities in the county have programs where they do a senior van program or other types of services like discounted Uber or Lyft rides. There's also volunteer driver programs that provide services as well as nonprofit and community-based programs. And so we try to coordinate all of that together. Just to give you a very high-level overview of some of the programs that we are working on or that are actively, in progress. One of them is the Low-Income Fare Equity Program. This one has been active since 2023, and this provides 10 free paratransit tickets to low-income paratransit riders in WestCat, Tri-Delta Transit, and County Connection Service. And we are actively working on a survey right now to understand and evaluate the program and work towards further improvements and promotion of the program. There's also the One Seat Ride program that the agencies have worked together on to make sure that for those who are traveling across County Connection, Tri-Delta, or WestCat service area, they don't have to do transfers and they can get that ride in one seat. It's been a very successful program, and the operators have done a great job of making that coordination happen. And then currently we are working on developing a tool on the back end called Optimat. Better name is pending, but essentially a tool that will make it easy for people to search for accessible transportation options, including questions around eligibility, and get recommendations. So essentially an information referral tool that would be similar to how Google Maps operates, but for a very specific set of providers that don't necessarily have a fixed route service. And we're hoping to do some prototype testing for that in August and in October to get feedback before we finalize this tool and work towards its implementation. We also oversee the TNC Access for All program. This is a state program that the CPUC runs. It charges a 10 cents tax from Uber and Lyft rides. So every ride that happens in the county, that 10 cents comes to CCTA as the local fund administrator for the program. And when we accumulate enough dollars, we do a call for projects. And the call for projects specifically funds wheelchair accessible on-demand service. Our next call for projects is scheduled for spring of 2027. And then I'm really excited to talk about our adaptive bike pilot, which is very specific and relevant to the CBPAC. I have some flyers with me as well that I can share. But one of our strategies in our accessible transportation strategic plan that was developed a couple years back included adaptive cycling or adaptive bike share. And so we've been working with BORP, which is adaptive recreation nonprofit here in Berkeley, and working with them to identify how we can bring their programming to Contra Costa County. So we're doing 3 pop-up events this August and September in East County, West County, and in Central, to get feedback from the community on the experience of, getting to try out adaptive bikes, and then doing surveys for everyone who comes to that event to identify next steps. We could consider, having those pop-ups as an ongoing programming. We could consider other options as well. BORP currently does these pop-ups in San Jose and San Francisco as a complement to the Bay Wheels program, and has support from MTC to do that. And so again, we're exploring what that looks like here, and very much open to feedback and comments from you all on what that looks like. And of course, we would love to have you at the event, so I will share a flyer with those details. And then the last program that I want to talk about very briefly is our travel training program. It is going to be launching this September. It is a program that will train older adults and people with disabilities on how to navigate the bus, BART, ferry, and use transportation. In the outreach that we've been doing, one thing that we've consistently heard from folks is that they may know about the bus, but they're not necessarily familiar with how it works. They have anxiety or concerns about getting lost, or what happens if I miss a transfer. And so these 60 to 90-minute skills workshops that will be starting in the fall will help give that information in an accessible format. And then in the future, we plan to do group trips, which I know in previous years was done by WICTAC. And so we're very excited to roll this out, and we've been working with a lot of different partners. But if we haven't reached out to you yet, or if you're interested in working with us, please let me know. We're always looking for more partners. But just to make sure that we stick to time, wanted to pause here if there's any questions, and then I can wrap up my presentation.
Deputy Mayor's, do we have any comment? Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. This is very interesting. And I'm interested, really happy to see the travel training start up again, because as you mentioned, it was very popular in West County, and I think it will be great countywide. So on the adaptive travel, or the adaptive cycling, so these pop-ups are demonstrations, but are there any incentives to help people purchase the devices?
That's one of the questions we're going to ask in the survey. So when folks come, I should have brought that with me, but we basically offer them a couple of options for them to think about what they would like programming to look like. So one of the options is funding to purchase their own bike if they're interested in that. Another option could be subsidizing or providing free membership to BORP. BORP has a membership model, $20 a month, and you can access a range of adaptive recreation. So that's another option. BORP is also working on a new program right now where they're going to do like a loaner program, so you can take a bike and keep it for some time. So we could also explore having that as an option in the county. One of the challenges with these bikes is that storage is a big issue because they're not the traditional bike size, right? Some of them are hand bikes, some of them are tandem bikes, either side by side or the very long ones. And that's part of why I really encourage folks to come out and see it for yourself, because it's a very cool experience. But that does pose some challenges because your traditional bike storage doesn't really work. And even as we were exploring venues for this event, we were thinking about like the bollards that protect the bike trails from cars from coming in or bigger vehicles, but then they would also block adaptive cycles from coming in. So there's a lot of considerations that I hadn't thought about until I actually saw the bikes, and I was like, okay, we have a lot to plan around. And I've also been able to work with Colin on this. Actually, Colin and I were able to do a site visit to the BORP cycling space and actually try out the hand bikes and see they had like 10 different types of adaptive bikes. And so it was great to see that for ourselves.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments?
Yeah, no, I just, pivoting off of what Leah just said, that we had, a year ago last April, in El Cerrito, we had a fair. We called it Go Green Mobility Fair. And one of the probably the most popular exhibitor at that fair was Access Trikes, which is in Richmond. And there's a fellow, I forget his name, is Patrick something or other, but he has ALS and operates the business. And so people love that. I mean, everybody wanted to try it out, and you really have to try a recumbent bike to really understand the different kind of experience it is. Yeah. So I think it's great that you're doing this. So even people who are not disabled will find that suddenly they're experiencing not just the asphalt when they bicycle, but the sky, so.
Yeah, no, it's a very cool experience. I'm glad you mentioned Patrick. I've actually been coordinating with Corey about having an Energizer station for the West County event, and he mentioned Access Trikes, and I think is going to be reaching out to them to see if they'd like to come to the event as well. Yeah, and it's also a great activity because people with disabilities and people without disabilities can do something together, and that's what I really appreciate about BORP's programming.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other member comments? All right.
Thanks, Chair. I represent East Bay Regional Park District. And so just as you're, holding events or engaging with folks on accessibility, if you do come across on our Class 1 trails, like on Iron Horse, situations where the design is not accommodating, for example, their bollards are not accommodating to certain, adaptive equipment, that feedback's always helpful for us. We can see what we can modify. A lot of those bollards were put in before a lot of this adaptive equipment was available. So we're happy to, work with the community to look at accessibility standards and design standards around that.
I really appreciate that. I'll definitely follow up.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Now we will move to, thank you so much, Halima. I appreciate it.
Just quickly, I'm probably preaching to the crowd, I commend your work, and, just saying that these are public investments, and it's just really, inclusivity should really be baked in it because we all invest in it.
Absolutely, and this is funded through Measure X.
Thank you so much, Halima. If we have any more comments, and then also you said you would leave some flyers, and then we will pick them up on the way out. Thank you. Jackie, do we have any public comments?
No public comment received.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our last few items, which is business and information sharing. This is open floor. Please be mindful of our 3-minute time limit or any business or information sharing that you would like. Okay, so we see that some of the members have waved their their time. Now we'll move on to the member staff. Any information on last upcoming projects or discussions that you would like to share? Upcoming subjects for discussion. Okay. And now, do we have any member staff or mention of future discussions? And we did take note of yours. Just make sure that you send an email. Okay. With that, we will now at 12:41 take adjournment. Thank you so much, members, and you have a wonderful, wonderful summer.
Real quick, I do want to make one note. If the bylaws do pass in September at the board, that it's potential to start at 10 a.m. for the September 28th meeting.
Absolutely.
Just something to note.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.